Hi everyone, so today we are going to go over a cup of tea, slide 5. If you were not in class, this is what we would have gone over. If you were in class and you just needed to re-watch this video, that is fine with me as well. You will get full credit for this slide as long as you have everything that we are putting together. So let's go ahead and get started. So for a CEA, we know that has claim, context before the quote, the actual evidence, and then the citation with the analysis. All of that information is over here. Oh, I went too far. Is over here off to the side if I scroll over, or if you pinch your screen for your iPads, this is all over here. That's how it should be colorized, but obviously in paragraph form as always. So I'm going to go ahead. I know I need to write my claim first, so I'm going to start with my yellow. And it says, why does Rosemary want to take the girl from the street home with her? Well, if we're making a claim, all we have to do is take off our question words. So we would change it to, instead of why does Rosemary, we would just say Rosemary wants to take the girl or girl from the street home with her because. And then we want to think about why she wants to do that. She wants to do that because, one, she wants to do something that she doesn't normally do, but she also wants to seem exciting. She wants to have her friends think that she's a good person. So we could go with either of those. For this example, we're just going to say Rosemary wants to take the girl from the street home with her because she wants to do something. We could either say out of the ordinary, or we could say something that she does not normally do. That works. So then we need to look at what we need to do next. So it looks like it's orange and green, but I will point out that you need to probably find your evidence before you can necessarily do your context. Sometimes it works, but not always. If you don't know what your evidence is, these two things need to flow into each other. So it can be really hard to start your context if you don't have an idea of where you're going with this. So I have an idea of where we want to go. We're just trying to find a piece of evidence that shows that she wants to do something out of the ordinary. So if I go to my story, it would be really, really smart to not read this first part because we've already read it, first of all. But in the beginning of this, she hasn't even met the girl yet. Remember, the girl's name is Miss Smith. She has not even met her yet. She has no idea who she is. She's just shopping at the very beginning. She's shopping. And then we get down to about here, where it says on page 2, kind of toward the bottom, Madam, may I speak to you a moment? And then she's like, wait, you want to talk to me? What do you want to talk to me about? And then that's when she asks her for a cup of tea. Remember, at this time, a cup of tea would be roughly like 20 cents, which goes to show Rosemary just how poor this girl is, who we later find out her name is Miss Smith. So Rosemary says, how extraordinary, at the bottom of page 2. Rosemary peered through the dusk, and the girl gazed back at her. How more than extraordinary. And suddenly, it seemed to Rosemary such an adventure. It was like something out of a novel by Dostoevsky. This meeting in the dusk. Supposing she took the girl home. Supposing she did one of those things that she was always reading about or seeing on the stage. What would happen? It would be thrilling. And she heard herself saying afterward, to the amazement of her friends, I simply took her home with me. As she stepped forward and said to that dim person beside her, come home to tea with me. That's where we want to pull from, because the whole question is, why did she do it? And right here goes to show that her intentions, while maybe being good, aren't really very well thought out, because again, she kind of just wants the attention from her friends. But I do really like this part that says, and suddenly it seemed to Rosemary such an adventure. It was like something out of a novel by Dostoevsky, this meeting in the dusk. But we don't need all of this. We really just need the part about her saying it's an adventure and the part about her comparing it to a novel. I don't know about you, but I don't know who Dostoevsky is. It doesn't matter that it was at dusk. It doesn't matter that it was sudden. So all of those things we can take out. But remember, whatever we take out from this quote, we need to put a ... at ellipses. Okay. So what we could do here is, now that we have a plan for what our evidence is, our context would make sense to answer this second question. Is it really just to offer her a cup of tea? So we would say, most people in class said no, it was more than just offering Miss Smith a cup of tea. So we could say, let me change this to orange because we are supposed to be in our context. Let's see. It is more than just offering Miss Smith a cup of tea because Rosemary thinks it will be, and then that's where it would make sense to say Rosemary thinks it will be an adventure, something out of a novel. That's what we're going to put. So since we are citing now, or quoting, we would put quotation marks. We would say ... an adventure like something out of a novel. And again, because we're not putting by Dostoevsky, we don't need it, so we put the ... This original ... comes because the sentence does not start an adventure. The sentence actually starts, and suddenly it seemed. It would be weird to say because Rosemary thinks it will be, and suddenly it seemed. We don't need that part. We just need the part literally right here where she calls it an adventure. And then the reason why we have a ... after adventure and before like is because we don't need the words it was. You could put them there. If you did, it would just look like this. Adventure, it was like something out of a novel. That would also be fine. I'm just going to leave this here. The ... before was really just to show you your two different options. So now I need to do my citation. I know that it's Mansfield. That is our author. We also can see that over here. We do not put Catherine as her first name, just the last name. And all of that evidence came from page 2. If it would have gone onto the third page, we would have put 2 and then a hyphen and then 3 because it's from both pages. But because it just came from page 2, that's why that's all we need with the period on the outside. Now here comes the analysis. This is the part that tends to throw people off just a little bit, but I do want to show it to you just so this makes a little bit more sense. All you are doing with your analysis is you're just explaining. It's just a fancy way of saying explain. Think about why. We're answering why does Rosemary want to do this? Rosemary's bored. Rosemary is bored of what? Think about what she's doing at the very beginning of the story that it sounds like she does every single day. She's bored of spending money and shopping and not having any full chance for fulfillment. So I know that sounds funny to say that a rich person is bored of shopping, but it could happen. Not to me because I'm not rich, but it could happen. So for this, we would just say Rosemary, because it's an extension of why does she want to take the girl home? Rosemary is bored with her life of luxury and constant shopping. Okay, sentence 1. We're already halfway done with our analysis. We only need 2 sentences. Obviously, we could go to a third if we needed it, but I think we'll be able to get this done in 2. And then we want to consider, like, we're saying she's doing something that she doesn't normally do, which is good. It's nice of her to reach out and try and help Miss Smith, but think about who she is doing this for. 1, she's not doing it for Miss Smith. She's doing it for herself because she knows that it's going to boost her status with the girls at the country club. That her friends are going to think that she's so much more interesting and cool and smart and funny and just meaningful. They're going to think she's a good person. So again, we're just still answering, why does Rosemary want to do it? This is all proving that she thinks this is some kind of fairy tale. You also could have used the evidence from before where she compares herself to like a fairy godmother and showing Miss Smith that good things really do happen and that rich people have hearts. That evidence could have worked here. Obviously, we would have tweaked some things. But again, she's Miss Rosemary Fell is just living in a fairy tale. Okay. So we could say she wants to do something meaningful and take Miss Smith home so she can tell her friends, let's say she can tell her rich friends about it, and they will all think she is more interesting and kind, we could say. We could have also just left it at more interesting. The other thing I want to point out is that actually Rosemary, I believe, says interesting somewhere in the story. But I don't see it right now. I'm pretty sure she says interesting. Maybe not. Either way, we could have said, since she says extraordinary so many times right here, how extraordinary, we could have put, which actually might kind of give it a cool effect. You don't have to do this, but, and we'll all think she is, we could say, extraordinary. Let's see if I can spell this right. And then, yep, I knew I didn't. Okay. So then we could put it in italics because italics would prove like that's the wording that she used before. She thought, oh, how extraordinary. Not necessarily how extraordinary Miss Smith is, but she wanted to be extraordinary. Either of those options would work. I am going to put it back to how we originally had it with interesting and kind, just because I am just fine with that one. Again, this is how we do these things. You do have a checklist over here that you can go off of. We can make sure that our colors match. Again, it's okay if your color yellow looks different from the super bright yellow, or if your pink is different, that's okay. You could pick a less harsh color That's okay. Obviously, these are a little bit close, so I am going to change this. Again, all this is minor. It's okay if it's not exact as long as the color family is the same. Again, we've got green, and then now if we make this pink, doesn't matter. Again, just keep it within this color range, as well as with your green, which is kind of just hiding out over here. Okay, that should be it. Obviously, we can still do this with our next two. So those are this is basically a model of how you do these two that we have for the you-dos. All right, we are finished. If you have any questions, let me know. You can always rewatch this video, go back, rewind, pause, do whatever you need to. Thanks. Bye.